Hello and welcome back to the Goat Cave podcast. Today we have quite the episode ahead of us. Well, first of all, let's welcome Jordan Bonifacio, returner of the Goat Cave. We actually did an episode with Jordan and promoting his company, Ride and Ramp Co., where he basically builds some of the greatest ramps in the world. It's pretty crazy, man.
Thanks, man.
I mean
Good to
that.
be back.
Those ramps are pretty fucking nuts. But yeah, anyways, little update on last week. Last week on the Goat Cave, we had the strongest bald guy on a BMX in the studio, Jeff Robertson. If you want to hear all about the trips that he's been on in the last few years or how cats make the best pets, go check that out. Today, we have quite the guest. This guest is known for many things: the world's first 1080 and the quad whip. And he's and the countless awards that in the span of 7 years since he's retired from the BMX world. However, he is still making a difference within many sports with his supplement company, Evil. He had many sponsors such as Miraco, Hyperbikes, Ballpark Franks, Monster Energy, and Bell Helmets, just to name a few. He even had a Flick Tricks bike toy. You may have actually seen him on The Late Show with Jimmy Fallon. He was once the owner of the craziest backyard ramp training facility. Mike Spinner, it's an honor to speak with you. How are you?
Dude, I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me. Super happy, super pumped to be on your show. And Jordan, what's going on? It's been some time since Woodward Camp days,
Yeah, man, it's awesome to hear your voice, man. Cam asked me to help out with this, and I couldn't resist the opportunity to chat with you again, man.
Awesome. No, we had a lot of sessions in Cloud 9, I think, right?
Oh, yeah.
The mini ramp.
Yeah, man.
I remember all those sessions we did.
It's pretty crazy to see
Thanks for having me.
Was that 2006 that you guys did that?
Yeah, 2006. I was
think
at
so.
Woodward, and I think that's when Jordan and I were hanging out.
It's pretty crazy to think that, 14 years later, you have a random dude like me message you, and I'm like, hey, do you want to do my small internet show? And then all of a sudden, you're speaking with a guy that you remember from way back then. Like, that is so crazy to me. I love that about BMX. I love the fact that, it is such a small, tight-knit community where, you can, not speak to somebody for 14 years and everything's still good. I love that.
Yeah.
So.
It's a small world.
There was an awesome Canada crew at Woodward where we had great sessions. Do you remember that, Jordan?
Oh, yeah, it was
we
sick.
had the whole crew with you.
Yeah, there was, those guys were from, the St. Catharines area, I think, mostly, and, I honestly had never even met them before Woodward, and it was sick to just, man, that place is so good to just meet friends and party and have fun there, ride with different people.
And you understand, for me, it was wow, these Canada guys are awesome. I didn't really separate much. I didn't think about different. It's like in the U.S. It's not like different states. I was like, man, why is everyone in Canada so nice? Everyone was so nice. We had great sessions in Lot 8, and all the accents and everyone from around the world, technically.
Yeah, that place is wild to bring people together from all over the world.
Dude, and then we were all going to the pizza place after crazy sessions we'd have.
Yeah, man.
In State College, the 1 hour drive to eat
dollar slice
pizza, but we'd be there for 2 hours,
Yeah, man, it was a night out, right?
Hours. Yeah, that was the night out. Talking about what we did on our bike, we rode for 6 hours, but then we would go drive 1 hour out to State College, eat pizza for 3 hours, and talk about what we did riding on our bike.
That's so really back then. That's all I thought about was riding. It was crazy.
That's all we. Yeah. That's how you get. That's how you get really good. That's how everyone excelled, and it seems like a lot of guys like yourself are still in the BMX business, which I think all stems from Woodward Camp.
Yeah, definitely. When I was there, I was never that good of a rider. I mean, yourself, you excelled so crazily. But I knew I wasn't at that level of riding to go pro. But I knew I just wanted to have something to do with riding my whole life. So I just always built ramps, and when I was out at Woodward, it was this is sick. I just want to build ramps and be involved with it. And that's I've just stayed involved. That's just been part of my life this whole time. never went away, right? Same with you. Like, I'm sure it's still part of your life, even with the things you're doing now. Like, it's just sick how it just like creates your whole lifestyle.
Oh, it's created everything from friendships to I think work ethic to, you know, like, I mean, if we wanted to work on a trick, let's say you and me, it was me and Jordan in Lot 8, and we both on a trick. It didn't matter what trick, but we were both going to spend 3 hours until both of us pulled our trick. And, you know, in life, that's kind of the same thing, right?
Yeah, you just keep pushing through, right? Figure it out and make it work.
Yep. Yeah, until basically your body says no and it breaks.
Let's not get that far.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like me and Jordan could talk about just old times for a while. Maybe so can you walk me through this? You've been doing this for a while. What's the next? What kind of what kind of info do you get out of people sometimes? Do you get some crazy stuff?
So this is actually episode 27.
Okay, that's pretty wild, man.
Yeah, I started doing this, about a year ago, like at least live streaming it. I did it a couple years ago,
Okay.
and it was just like the way that I was doing it before did not work at all. And now it's like it's working so well, which is awesome. I'm actually like hoping to start basically like a website where I'm going to be hosting all of my live streams where we're doing podcasts like this, all of my video content. I've been making like DVDs for years, like BMX Street DVDs, which is awesome. And the support has been insane. Like both my videos went worldwide and they sold out within like the longest one was 3 weeks. It took me to sell 100 copies. And then the other one was only, the last one, Space Goats, it sold out in 13 days. Like it was unreal. So like the support has been so good. So I've always wanted to try and do something within BMX. So my next step is I'm making a website and I'm going to try and do interviews with local people like yourself, anything from podcasts to written interviews to just sharing people's content. BMX is what really makes me happy. So, I love just seeing other people get stoked on it.
Oh, that's cool.
Hell yeah.
That's really cool. No, and thanks for giving me the breakdown on that. And it's just, it's cool to be, I definitely really appreciated that message I got from you. I just wanted to let you know, I love BMX and I'll be going to the Olympics to watch in Japan just for the fact that I'm still such a big fan. I love watching it. I love street. I love, I started riding street. And the videos you were talking about, do you remember the videos that they did years ago? It must have been like 15 years ago. It was kind of underground, but they were still the best riders. Can you help me? What were some of the old DVDs, like the oldest BMX DVDs? Not Road Fools, but it was like the underground guys.
Yeah, so they had Props, which is like the Road Fools stuff. They did the Props video magazines for a while. I'm not 100% sure. There is if you just look through the history of it, there's so many good videos. I've always been a fan of people that can ride like pretty much anything. So like anybody that can ride street, dirt, park. But I really love the Animal BMX Company videos, stuff like that. I've always been, when it comes to filming, I love street. I really think that when it comes to a full length DVD, street riding is one of the best ways to do it. But yeah, there's countless videos out there. I'm trying to think of the one that you'd be thinking of though.
Oh man, it will hit me in a little bit, but it was like the underground guys.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, but yeah, no, thanks for having me. This is really cool. And I don't know if you know this or not, but before I started doing crazy tricks, I was riding a lot of street. That was mainly what I rode, curbs, for hours. Too many hours. Backwards manual 360s. That's probably all I did. And then when I finally got the courage to ride ramps, and I was like, I could go up this ramp. The faster I go, the higher I go. Doing a tail whip to a double tail whip or a triple tail whip was actually kind of easy, So that's kind of where I came from.
Hell yeah. Yeah, there's a video of you a couple of years back. I forget what it's called. Oh, what happened there? I'm like, I hope he doesn't think that I hung up on him. That would be really sad. All right, let's try this again. I don't know what happened, guys. I'm sorry. Here we go. There we go. He's probably like, what the fuck, man?
You hung up on Mike Spinner, dude.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, you reached Mike. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks.
Nice.
What the fuck? I'm like, I wonder if his phone died. That would suck. Mike, I'm sorry. Oh, no. Okay, just give us 1 second, guys. Oh, here we go.
Nice ringtone.
I know. It's the stock one. Hey,
Sorry,
so...
I'm so sorry. Sorry about that.
It's all good, Mike.
Yeah, that might have been me,
Yeah.
too. I don't know. My phone's really weird like that some
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
So we were just talking about how you used to ride street, and it's funny, we were just talking about your back ramp before we connected with you. And like you had that little
Yeah.
like flat bank section in your area, like to the wall ride, and like there's the little flat banks. I was just saying to Cam, I was like, that was like your favorite spot to ride on that whole ramp was like those little flat banks.
I appreciate you knowing that, actually. That's what I grew up riding.
Hell yeah. That's super cool, man. Yeah, so you asked earlier about like, you know, some of the other guests that I had on here. Not to brag or anything, but I wanted to throw some of those out there for you. So, you know, we do a lot of local guys on here, which is really good. But I had Mike Escamilla on here. If you know Rooftop, I would imagine you would know.
Yeah.
You better know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever meet Zach Gerber by chance? Do you know who Zach Gerber is?
Yeah, of course I know Zach.
Yeah, so we had Zach on here a while back. That was such a crazy episode because, like, you know, we talked about his transformation from being a park rider to a street rider. And, like, the stuff that he's doing now is ridiculous. And, like, he's well in his 30s, and he's still sending the, like, biggest front flip gaps, doing the gnarliest shit. Like, it's so crazy to me that was, like, you know, I don't know. There's been a lot of really cool people on here, but I'm definitely really stoked to have you on here. So... yeah, let's go way back. So when did you first start riding, and how did you get started?
Yeah, I started riding when I was, I'd say 12 years old, maybe 11, 12 years old. I did a bunch of sports, but at the end it was more so I like to do whatever I want to do without a boss, let's say, and a boss is a coach sometimes, and coaches aren't that fun. So if you're playing hockey, which I did, not ice hockey like you really cool Canadian people, more roller hockey in Florida, not as cool. That's not offensive, right? That's a compliment.
No,
right?
that's good.
Make sure.
I have never, I can't even skate on ice, so don't feel bad. I am like the worst Canadian. I don't drink Tim Hortons, and I don't skate. Like, I cannot even get onto ice. I'll slip out and die.
But you say oi, right? Oi.
Hey.
Hey.
That's what I meant. No, you guys know what I meant.
Amazing. Of course we know the stereotype. Oi.
Basically, I started riding when I was 12, and then when I got a little better towards probably the end of 12 years old, it was just cool to just go out in front of a yard and or front of the house and just, you know, do bunny hops, go up the curb, and then I started learning how to do frou-frous on the curb, and then I started learning how to do tail taps on the curb. And this is like 12 to 13, and then I spent like 6 months trying tail whips, learned tail whips when I was like, I want to say 14 years old. But I mean, like, it was like brutal. The way I learned was like the frame and pedal way, and I just fell in love with it, and it was crazy. The more hurt I got, the more I was just excited, and all I could think about was when I got better, what next trick I was going to learn, and I just got obsessed with that, you know. And then I was riding a lot from the age 14 to 16, but then my mom passed when I was 16 years old, and I have a mentality of when something bad happens to you or something negative happens to you, you gotta how do you get out of it? Or once you know you're mentally better, hopefully you physically did things that are positive for you. And so I rode my bike a lot. I mean, like, to the point where I don't even want other people to do it. It's like actually to the point of really bad. But I probably rode 8 hours a day, but like a ridiculous amount of putting pressure on myself to constantly learn tricks so I wouldn't think about my mom and stuff. And so I did that for about 2.5 years, like 8 hours a day, which is, you know, kind of crazy. It really was crazy. Like I would just keep hopping around groups in Florida who would keep riding. So from 1 p.m. all the way till 10 p.m. And I would just, I had like different groups to ride with, 2-hour segments, and I would just keep going from street to park, street to park. And I think I got introduced to ramp riding when I was about 16, and then I really excelled there. And then I went to Woodward Camp when I was 18. So that's kind of the story. Yeah.
That's crazy, man. And you should have seen Jordan's eyes light up when you mentioned that you used to land frame and pedal, because that's the only way that I've ever landed tail whips. I've done them down drops. I've done them down everything. I can't get out of the habit of landing frame and pedal. I have no clue how to stop it. It's been like years. I've been trying for quite a while, but at some point I just kind of was like, fuck it. Who cares?
I think it's, this will sound crazy, and not sure who else would agree with me or not, but I think learning how to do frame and pedal is the best way to learn a tail whip. And then if you have to get out of that, but it's so much harder to do frame and pedal because you have to be so much more forward on your bike, like a lot more forward, which then gives you control in the future years. So when I started doing double, triple, and quadruple tail whips, you have to have the position of the frame and pedal, like really over the bike to the point where you think you're going to flip over. But if anything, that's like how you own the bike, and you could do anything you want with it. That kind of makes sense.
That's a really good point, because how I learned was I was told to be over the bars, like almost a scary amount where you think you're going to flip over it. Yes. So I've always done them that way.
Yes. So
maybe that's what my problem is. Mm-hmm. I also think maybe I should just try and not do it that way.
Just get the pedal one time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or try to spin with it. And that's the only way you can get your back foot over the seat.
Okay.
And just do like a 90 with it.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I'm going to land it this year to pedals. And when I do, I'm going to post a video on Instagram.
Say my name.
And I'll tag you. I will land it, and then I'll look right at the camera and be like, Mike Spinner taught me how to do this.
That's what I love it. My next tail whip I learned after frame and pedal was a tail whip to tire side.
Really?
Because then you're able to do a 90-degree tail whip, like Jordan said, and you're able to get the seat in front of your back foot. Like it gets real technical. This is how I really rode all the time, was getting super, super technical. I remember asking, I was at a Toronto contest. This is in 2007.
Did you ride the Metro Jam or the...
Was it Metro? No, 2006, 2007.
Was it after Jay had done it in like the stadium? It was like the wooden, like...
It was a stadium.
It was in the stadium. Yeah, I think I remember you riding in that.
Yeah, and I remember asking Dennis Anderson when he does 360 whips, because him and I both did. I did a 3-whip down a 3-stair, like probably a couple months prior to that contest on the on the Nike trip, and I remember him saying that he was going to go for it, and I remember asking him, "All right, so are you going to pick up the front wheel first, or are you going to?" How are you going to do it? You're going to lift up the front wheel, then spin, then turn, then kick your bike. And I remember him looking at me like, what are you talking about? I'm just going to do it, man. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I asked too many questions.
Just huck it, yeah.
Everyone's going on. Yeah. That's not how I need to understand. Okay, I'm going to lift my front tire. I'm going to jump forward. I'm going to be over my bike, and then Dennis is like, I'm just going to do it. I don't know why you're thinking about it. So, yeah, different ways of riding.
Yeah, that's so crazy, man. And it's insane to think about how far Dennis Anderson has come since those days. He is praised around the world as literally one of the greatest to ever do it at this point.
Oh, he is amazing, man. I rode with him for on some Nike trips, and then contest Nike trips, and we became friends on those trips. I would look at ramps, pretend I'd have to spend 10 minutes before I could kind of maybe work on a trick. And by him just looking at how I rode the ramp, he could just do his tricks. He doesn't have to ride the ramp. He doesn't have to roll around. He just does it. And to me, those are things that I just can't comprehend. It's amazing. He can look at it and know how to pump that ramp and how to ride as he's been riding that ramp for a couple weeks. I don't get it. It's amazing,
Yeah, that's insane, man. He's so good. it's ridiculous to think about, like, you know, that he's actually been around for so long too. Like, you know, he's got his own podcast now that's really good too. I think it's called Unclicked. I think it is. It's pretty good though.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta check that out. It's I think he does it with like a lot of just a ton of different BMX names, which is cool. But yeah, can you remember the first bike that you ever had?
Yeah, it was besides the bike in Walmart that was called the Dyno. Then my next bike was a GT Freestyle Pro Racer, not the performance one, but it was like the racer one.
I think I had something really similar to that.
And, yeah. I remember that bike. It was light, and I was able to do that was like when I learned my first foot jam tail ups.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Did you have a gyro at that time?
Yeah, it must have been 12. Huh?
Was there a gyro on it at that time, or were you like twisting cables?
No gyro, no.
Yeah.
It wasn't. But that, I think, was how I got kind of obsessed with why maybe I never got into pegs was that bike, and it also had really good brakes. So I was able to learn all my foo-foo tricks. Like I did all the foo-foos on curbs. And like, remember I was doing, probably when I was 12 or 13, I was doing 360 tail taps to manual to 180. And then like, it was kind of before anyone really did those tricks. You know, I know that was your style too, Jordan. And
yeah, I did a lot of weird technical stuff back then.
Yeah.
And who were some of the riders that you looked up to when you were like first starting out?
So I definitely learned people like to look up to the guys that they're closest to riding wise. So guys that I really looked up to, I think I'll say some names that will surprise you guys. Tom Hagen, Kevin Porter. I want to say those were probably my favorite guys when I was younger. And then as I got older, it kind of changes. Dave Mira, of course, Bestwick, those guys, Colin McKay, Rob Darden. I'd say those were the guys that when I was younger growing up, Dennis McCoy I really liked, but I don't know if it was because he's from New York or his riding or mix them all. And the Dave Mira Super Tour I was on there, I went to one of those stops, and I think I went around and around and got everyone's autograph about 10 times. Literally, I still have him today. Dave Asado.
Yeah, Canadian.
Yeah, it's so crazy. I remember, I think that was the year that he did a opposite 360 tilt on the Metro, probably the Metro Jam, Toronto Metro. And it just still doesn't make sense today. You know, I don't know how someone could do that trick.
Yeah, Dave's nuts. Like, some of the nose pick tricks that he did are ridiculous. You know, like I've been doing a lot of research on just like Canadian BMX and stuff, and he's definitely one of my favorite, like, you know, from a couple years back. And he's actually kind of inspired me to get front brakes. So this year I'm getting front brakes on my bike, and I want to start doing some Dave Asado shit.
Nice, dude. I remember he was at camp when I first rolled into Woodward as a teenager. It was Nyquist, Mira, Jay Miron, Dave Osado, and Ruben were all at camp. It was nuts. And like, yeah, Dave Osado did this front brake thing. You probably remember it, Spinner. In the cage, there was like those camel hump, like rhythm section things. And the one was like a sub box. It was like 7 foot quarter up to like the rhythm thing, sub box. And he went up, nose picked on it, and then backwards nose manual down like the rhythm thing back up to the other hump, and then came back in. Like, it was the most impossible thing I've ever seen in my life. And it was on like the top of like 7 foot ramp to like 5 foot sub box. Like, insane. That guy's
Which
good.
People can't do today.
Yeah, I know. It's so technical, like so hard to do.
Yeah, that's insane. So I'm actually going to go to one of the fan questions here. Harvester Bikes, really good friend of mine. He owns a bike shop. He actually wants to know if you can share some Dave Mira stories since his death was actually 4 years ago yesterday.
Yeah, that's crazy. 4 years ago. I'd say stories. Maybe a good story would be when I finally I got on his team. I got on the phone with him. He was down to sponsor me. This is in 2006. 2006. I'm at his house, which is kind of crazy. I'm at his house. I meet his wife. I'm petting their dogs. You know, like when you're in an awkward situation where you're like, you don't even know what to do with your hands. So I'm like petting their dogs. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm at Dave Mira's house. This is insane. And he sponsored me, and he asked me if I got the contract. And then I said, oh, well, don't you need my email address? And he says, he looks at me and goes, no, I have it. And I go, what do you mean? And he goes, and then he says what it is. And I'm like, oh, wow. He goes, yeah, you were talking to me back in the Dave Mira Super Tour. And I'm like, oh, you remember it's me?
That's
goes,
crazy.
Of course, Spinner. And I'm like, dude, that's nuts. Like, I wouldn't have not thought that he would have remembered that, you know?
Wow.
Because I got his
that's an awesome
screen
story.
name at Dave Mira Super Tour, on the Roots Jam. I was like begging him. I got a few people's, but that was when the screen names and AIM was going on. I thought that was a cool story. Other stories are probably just, I don't know. You know, they're all good stories.
I'm bummed.
That's a
When
good
I was
story.
a camper at camp, we all got like posters, and we were in the lunchroom, and I asked him to sign my poster. It was such like a fanboy thing. There's like a crowd around him. I like shoved this poster in his
Yeah.
face, and he like signed it, right? And then I went back. I started eating my lunch, and then I went to put my dishes in the dish room. Came back, poster's gone. I was like so pissed. Like,
No, that's so sad.
But yeah, man, miss that guy.
Yeah, Dave was a legend, you know? Definitely
yeah.
unfortunate that he did pass away 4 years ago. And,
Yeah.
you know, let's not, you know, sit here and think about that. Let's move on to some stuff. But Dave was a legend, you know?
Yeah.
That's all that matters. He did so much for BMX, and he's definitely one of the biggest names in BMX, you know? Like, people outside of BMX, when you talk about BMX, they know two names. Matt Hoffman, Dave Mira.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree completely.
It's pretty crazy to, you know, think about that. So let's go on to, I got a question for you. What was the journey like to the world's first 1080? And how long did you have the idea of actually doing it?
So the journey was as follows. I remember the article in Ride BMX that basically showed all the guys that tried to do 1080s. And I think that article came out a year or two, probably in 2005, and I did it in 2007. Basically, I was doing a lot of 720s, and I was picturing if I could do it or not. And the first time I tried to do a 1080, I got right around. Just the first time. And that's like a foam pit, so, you know, you're not really taking any risk. But, you know, in the day of when we're at Dave Mira's facility or Woodward Camp, when you do a trick in the foam pit, you're not far off from doing it on a ramp, because that's like anything you do in the foam pit, it's very close to being reality. So
and the resi's right there, like you almost have to, like.
Sorry.
And the resi's right beside it. It's like you almost.
Oh, it's right.
Take
it's
it
right next to it.
Yeah, you might as well, right?
Yeah, right. You're not far off. So I remember when I was spinning them in the foam pit, I tried not to overthink it, because I remember, the more you read into like the trick and thinking about what the trick is, like if you read before you do the trick, if you're like, wait, everyone tried this trick and everyone has failed. So then you start, overthinking, well, why am I going to be able to do it, but these other guys weren't? So try not to think about that. You just try to do this trick because you're capable of doing it. And I was doing a lot of 720s, to the point where 720s were more easy for me than a 360 or jumping the box jump straight. I would land better on a 7 than I would just jumping the box jump.
Wow.
That was real. I mean, I think Jordan saw me ride, and I think
it was effortless, man. Effortless.
Yeah. It was easier for me than just jumping the ramp straight. Really was. And I remember doing the 1080s in the foam pit, and then I did a 1080 at Dave Mira's foam pit. Dave Mira's resi, which was a bigger setup than Woodward Camps before the new Cloud 9. But the problem on Dave Mira's was it was a lot bigger, so it was like more of an arc. So I remember spinning that. I did a bunch in a row on the foam pit. And then everyone's trying to tell me to do it on the resi, but I'm not mentally there. Finally, the next day, I'm very much like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to try this trick. So the next day I'm going for it, and I make it a really big deal for myself to do something on the resi, because that means I'm about to do it on ramp if I can do it on the resi. After 3 tries, I pull it on the phone, on the resi, and it was pretty, not effortless, but it was like, you kind of know where you're at, you kind of don't know where you're at. I pull it. I remember it being on, like we filmed it. Then we were going to, me and Dave Mir were going to New Zealand for X Air event in 2007. And Dave was doing the 360 backflip no-handers, which was really awesome. And I remember saying, if you try this trick, I'll try the 1080. He did that in his run. And then there was a best trick contest. And there was only a few people in the best trick contest. It was me, Dave Asado, Mira. I want to say that was like the only guys that were like doing the big tricks or going for a big trick versus the guys that were doing some of the technical tricks where they could try multiple times. Not that those aren't worth as much. It was just, those kind of fizzle out after those guys win. And then like the guys that are like going for the big box jump tricks are normally the ones that are highlighted. And it was me, Asado, and Dave he was going for a huge nose pick. And Dave, I think, he pulled his 360 back and no-hander. And then I tried 1080 and I went right around. I remember when I did that, Dave stopped trying his nose pick. And he was just all about, you better do this 1080. So after 2 times I fell, just sliding out. And I was like giving up every time. And I remember him basically saying, don't you fucking dare try to get out of this. You better go try it again. This is Dave Asada. It was really cool.
Dave Osado or Mira?
Dave Asada.
Okay.
He was telling me, you better keep going. And then I pulled the 1080 after about 6 or 7 tries, but the difference was the box jump was it was small. It was like a 5-foot box jump, so it was much more like you had to spin real hard up the lip. And so it was cool because it made it where it was like that was probably the hardest 1080 I ever did, was the first one I did. And then after that, when you start doing these big box jumps like at Detour and stuff, it's actually much easier. It's because it's less of a huck and it's more of a technique. Whereas the first one I did was like, you really had to spin hard off the lip or you get kind of just thrown off. But yeah, that was it. And then everyone made it like after I pulled it, it was awesome. Corey Anastasio was there, Mir was there. They picked me up. Like the crowd went nuts, and yeah, that was the 1080.
Sick.
That's insane, man. I think it's so crazy to hear how that trick actually came to be. And, it has a really good story, which is cool, too. And, something I want to mention is, every fucking rider nowadays that rides in, X Games or Fees or even, Dew Tour when that was still a thing. I don't know if they're still doing Dew Tour. I don't think so. I think that ended, yeah. But everybody has to do 1080s now. It's literally just the norm. 1080s and huge, people are doing quad whips. Jordan and I know a guy named Joel Bondu. He's some Montreal kid, and the kid does quad whip airs first trick of the day. It's just so crazy to think how far BMX has come, and that you were the pioneer of that.
Yeah, it's cool to be the first one. That was my biggest high, was to be the first one to do a trick. So 1080 quad whip, 720 tail whip. Those are definitely my big box jump tricks, of the first, doing it first. I'd say the hardest part of that trick is doing those kind of tricks in a run. And I know the guys that I think right now can do, Logan Martin is able to do both of them in the same run, Brandon Lupos. But I'd say that's the hardest part of these big type of tricks is, not doing it at your, let's say, local park, but more so in the middle of a contest run when you're coming from another big trick or coming from another trick or going into another trick, because you can't really be phased by it. It's a different type of riding when you're contest riding versus when I street ride. You're trying to get a clip or you're trying to just get a trick done versus putting in the middle of a run.
Yeah, the pressure's on, right?
For me, there's only a few guys that are doing it in the runs. So it's kind of cool to see when someone does a run pretty close to how I rode 10 years ago. And I still think sometimes some of these runs I did 10 years ago would possibly hold up to today.
Oh, absolutely.
It's kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and even the 1080 that you pulled, there's a clip of you doing a quad whip and then a 1080. I think it was at Dew Tour, and both of them are they're pulled perfectly. Like, I watched a clip of you doing a quad whip, and like literally it just goes around and there's no struggle. You just step on the bike. Like, it blows my mind that it was that not that easy, but you know what I mean? Like, you made it look like it's such an easy thing to do.
Thank you.
Yeah,
it's thank you. Thanks, man.
And earlier you had mentioned, like the fact that when you were wanting to learn this trick, you're like, well, what do I have that these guys don't, and they haven't been able to pull it? Well, I'll tell you, Mike.
Yeah.
It's because your last name's Spinner.
Fucking Spinner, yeah.
You were meant to do it.
Did you ever feel like a pressure to do certain tricks like that, and just because like guys would heckle you on, like, it's your name, you have to do it, kind of thing? Like,
no, because I promise you, I tried flips and flares for a long, long time, and man, I was just such a pussy with that. Yeah. I hope I could say that. Can I say that?
Absolutely. Say whatever you want.
I was such a pussy with that, so I'm happy that my name wasn't, Flipper, which wouldn't
Flipper.
Sound anyway. No offense to my friend Flip at Aldi. But,
there's Flip, nice.
Yeah, I loved spinning. I don't know why. I just loved spinning, and then I'd say the number one thing was, instead of me being more diverse, which I respect a lot of guys that are really well diverse in let's say all types of riding. I'd rather just be amazing at two things, which was tail ups and spin, and then trying to combine those two instead of being good at everything. For example, bar spins, flips, opposite tricks, I'm not good at all. Like, the regular amateur was much better than me at any of those type of tricks, and I know that. But I wanted to be amazing at spins and tail ups, right?
Well, I gotta tell you, you were definitely pretty fucking good at them. So tell us a little bit about the quad whip and how that happened. It actually ended up being something like a year later, right? Like, you did both of these almost in a year span.
No, so let me give a quick rundown on my tricks that I was able to get done before anyone else. So I went. The first one that was a big one was the 720 tail. But when I say the big one, I mean like people made it a big deal. Like at Woodward Camp, Jordan was there, and I did the 720 tail. And I was the first one to do that. And that was another trick that everyone made a big deal. Like I remember Morgan Wade and Alistair both telling me I wasn't able to do it. And like the more they told me I couldn't do it, I was like, why not? What do you mean? I'm doing it right here in the foam pit. What do you mean? and I think, I'm cool with them today. And I think they were just not wanting me to do it. You know what I mean? It wasn't going to help their contest runs. But at the end, after you do it, they give you props. But it was the 720 tail that was in 2006. Then the first part of 2007, I did a 360 triple tail up, which I was the first one to do that. And I did that at New Hampshire Rye Airfield. And then in the beginning of that was at the end of 2006. And then 2007, I was the first one to do the 1080. And then it took me a full year to do another big trick, which was the quad whip. So those were the four tricks.
Wow, man. That's insane. Like, 360 triple whip doesn't even make sense to me, And here's a really dumb question, but I think you're going to like it. When you do a quad whip, do you think that if you were to spin the bike fast enough, you actually are like helping yourself, have less gravity?
Yeah, I would have to set up. I think we'd have to set up some kind of like little wings on the bike. But I think there has to be a point where you're spinning and it helps, right?
There's got to be.
Absolutely.
About that. And everyone that does a triple tail thinks about that.
Oh man. So here's before we jump into how the quad whip happened, did you actually see that Logan Martin pulled the first 5 whip like 2 years ago, I want to say?
Yeah, I did. I think I reposted on my social. So I still love watching all these guys progress. So when I see something really badass, I'm all about giving it props. And another one was that was the quad. That was 5 whips, and he did it on like more of a real ramp. Where like I know someone else did it on like the mega ramp, and they did 5. But like Logan did it on a ramp that looked closer to like a dirt jump, where like it is possible to be done. You know, sometimes these ramps are so big where I don't think it's possible sometimes to actually do it like in a contest run. So I think if there's a big enough ramp for Logan, I think he could do it. But I think that's the point where you actually do need more height. Like you need a ramp that's not 6 foot lip. I think you need something that's going to boost you up. Maybe it sounds so crazy, but probably 12 feet. You know,
I think that's the way ramps are going these days. Like you've seen Drew's contest a couple weeks back, and like things are just getting gnarly. Like the ramps are just getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah,
or the MTV bikes, they're getting crazy, right?
It's insane to think about, you know, like even you, Jordan, the ramps that you've been building for people are ridiculous. Like that Dylan Morrison?
Yeah, it's crazy. Like people they need bigger ramps for the tricks they're trying. Like they just need that hang time and air time.
Let's tell Mike about that like literal mini mega you built for Dylan Morrison. Like how old is he? 14, 15?
He's a teenager, so he was entering into those like monster like triple challenge like dirt jump contests and stuff, which are insanely huge.
Oh my god, ridiculous.
So he just wanted like a practice spot for trying tricks over like bigger jumps. So yeah, built a massive roll in and lip to resi kind of thing.
How tall was the lip?
Lip was like 7 feet or 8 feet tall.
Okay. The like roll in on the other side, or like the like landing ramp is so huge. I know that. Like,
yeah, it's got like
ridiculous.
a lot of like it's kind of like if you fall off, you just slide down like a massive resi slide. So like you never really flat bottom it, which is nice.
Isn't that crazy? These ramps are just getting so big, and I get nervous when they get real big because the last thing we want to see is someone get hurt. Because that I think slows the progression of what we're doing.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, but I mean, it's getting to the point where like you see like those nitro game like they change the style of the ramp. And it makes it so it's safer. Like they built that mega kicker with like a crazy steep, tall landing where, if you hit it wrong, you could get fucked. But like if you catch that tranny, it really doesn't matter. You just slide out on your side and...
I've gone to a nitro. I've gone to 3 nitros and I'm friends with all the guys. And what they're doing is insane. And some of them are able to actually bring the tricks they learned on that ramp over to smaller ramps, like Jay Dewey doing the front bike flip to tail whip or bar spin to front bike flip. Like he's able to do them, which is crazy on small ramps, big ramps. But those guys, the way they ride, it's just like you said, Jordan, they're able to catch the tranny on the bottom and not, really get hurt. So I guess there's a point where that actually makes it okay. But yeah, I guess like the times you get hurt are when you miss the landing, right?
Yeah, there's nothing there, right?
Probably the biggest injuries. Yeah, it's probably the biggest injuries in that.
Yeah, exactly. So let's go back a little bit here. Let's talk about how you landed the quad whip. So this one was definitely a big one for you, Like it's probably one of the ones that you're most known for was the quad whip, I'd say at least.
Probably. So I did. So this was the point where triple tail-ups were getting somewhat popular. It's 2008, and I think the first triple tail-up was done by James Foster at the Red Bull contest.
Yep.
I think was that in Canada, right? So he did the first triple tail-up, and that might have been 2005, 2006. And then Cam White was doing them on dirt jumps, or he was getting really close. And then when I did the first 360 triple tail at the end of 2006, but for me it was somewhat of a hard trick for the fact that you had to spin and whip, which makes it harder for me to get the bike really stay on you, like we talked about with the frame and pedal. And I one time gave a quad whip a try. It was at Woodward Camp, and I remember Chad Cagney was watching. I was in Cloud 9. And this is when, this sounds so bad, he was kind of, trying triple tail-ups, and, you know, when you see, sounds so bad, when you see someone else maybe not doing the best, you then, you know, want to show them that you can do it. That sounds real bad.
I'm sure we've all done it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I remember saying, Chad, watch this. And I tried a quad whip, but it's actually dangerous doing a straight trick into the foam pit because you could get really fucked up.
Oh, easily.
So I remember doing like in the foam pit, like a 90-degree turn, just a little bit. So if it's not going good, you could kind of just lean on the side instead of the bike getting stuck, and that's you get really, you know, messed up. So I remember doing it, and the bike went all the way around. And it's all like a confidence booster when you do that one time and you kind of got it around. Then if you fully commit where you stay straight up and you're not trying to do any funny business, I remember doing it again, and I got it right under me. And I go, oh, wow. And just to kind of sidetrack, I got hurt with my shoulder in that New Zealand X Air contest when I did the 1080. Right before that, I did like a 360 double tail up on the spine and went straight up the flat. Like it was a 5-foot ramp, and I think I went 360 double tail up straight to the flat ground. I pulled the trick, but I went flat to the ground, so I probably dropped to 7 feet and popped my shoulder out, and it's still messed up today.
Oh,
so
wow.
that was the reason why I didn't like to do 360 double tail ups anymore. And I already did the first 360 triple tail up, but I felt like it wasn't that progressive with the fact on like what I would get difficulty points wise. This sounds so bad because this is all contest riding. How are we going to win the next do tour? You know, at this point, it's, you know, I'm a professional BMX rider. What's a trick that I could keep doing? Because like if you work on a trick that is only going to get you so far and you can't really progress after that, I kind of lose my excitement about it. So I remember when I did the quad whip, it was kind of like just muscle trick where you have to be really strong to do it. And it was a trick that I thought I would be able to kind of hold on to for a little bit if I was able to do it. And so I remember I did it foam pit, then I did it right at right before a stop at the do tour. And then everyone was talking about it. And I literally just did it for the first time on a box drum, first try in a contest run, and rolled away. And my mouth was like, "Oh shit, I did it! Keep going," you know. And so that was Cleveland in 2008. Was the first quad whip for me.
How many times did you pull it? Like after that, did you keep doing them, or was?
Yeah, I think I did about maybe 8 to 10 of them, and I only fell on one of them, which I tore my ACL on.
Damn.
And then that was 2009, and then 2010, I came back from my torn ACL, and I did at the do tour in Chicago, I did a 1080 turn down, and I did a quad whip in the same run, which was really cool, and it worked out really well. And maybe I did like 10. But I would always, I would actually miss my back foot, and I never rode pegs, and I would actually hold on to the little axle. That would actually be where my foot stopped, and that happened a lot of times too, which I don't know how that happened. It really is like the quad whip. It's like you just get on at the right time, like you said earlier. You walk onto the bike, but I'm talking, you walk on right at the end.
Yeah, it's insane to think that, you know, you even pulled it. Like, to me, it doesn't even, you know, it doesn't even make sense. I've tried double whips into foam, and like I can't even get that like 1.5 times around. And like, I don't know, to me it's just like insane, man. Like,
so would you say you're doing like 2 tail whips on the way down? Like you do 2 on the way up and then 2 on the way down?
Yeah, I'd say the last tail whip is the most scary because it looks like you're
supposed to be landing now.
You're screwed. and it's just jumping under you, you know?
Crazy.
It was crazy. I can't believe it. I'll be honest, today I'm like, how the fuck did I do that?
So do you still ride these days, Mike?
Yeah, so I actually ride at a drop-in skate park, which is not too far off from where I live at. It's in Boca Skate Park.
Nice.
And it is the ramps I donated from when I had my skate park. They took, I want to say, maybe like 30 to 50% of the ramps, or at least the ramps that really mattered. And I'll go there, but I don't even ride the ramps that like came from my backyard. I'm riding the little ramps or the little wedges or a little pump track they have. It just feels great to be on my bike, you know. But I was doing some foot jam tail lifts first try on the wedge ramps and stuff, which just feels fantastic.
Nice.
Hell yeah, man. I was actually really interested to see if you were still riding at all. Did you end up stopping for quite a while and then coming back? How did that work?
Oh, yeah. So you're talking about like 2008 to 2010 or?
So
yeah.
After you finished your like contest run at Dew Tour, obviously, like in 2010 when you won, after that, you kind of like ended up slowing down, right?
Oh, yeah. I put on in 2011, was it 2011? 2012, 13. Oh, wow. Well, I'm just trying to put all these dates together. So, 2011, I was still like practicing. I won the contest in 2010, but I tore my ACL again. And then a couple months later, I messed it up again. So now I'm like, 3 ACLs in 1 year, which not good. I had the amount of cortisone shots in my knee was insane. I was actually looking through photos just a couple of days ago, and I saw all the photos because I was going to different doctors to get cortisone shots because, they would be like, man, this isn't good. And after they give me the shot, I'd be like, oh, the other doctor said that too. And it was all just to keep riding and to keep going. But 2011, I was still trying, but mentally I wasn't there. I had my backyard ramps. And then 2012, I set up a contest called the Play Pro. I did it with Austin Coleman. Me and him did a contest with Vito BMX that filmed it. And I was going to ride in it. And then at the end, I was like, I don't want to do this. I just want to be here and enjoy it. I don't actually want to ride in the contest. And that was 2012, a pro contest in the backyard. And it went so well. Then in 2013, I partnered with Monster Army, and I did a 10-stop tour around the country. I set up all the stops we were going to do, and then the winner was going to have an amateur contest in my backyard, and then the winner of the amateur contest was going to come to the pro contest a month later in my backyard. And when I was doing that, I was definitely getting out of it, and this is also when I was starting EBL.
Wow.
So that was I think that was around the time that I actually came and visited you at your house when I was down working in Florida.
Yeah, when were you there?
That was, it was probably just before that second monster contest you had, maybe. And I was down working at the wind tunnel in Florida, and I don't know if you remember, I called you up and came by for like a session or two in your yard. It was probably right. I don't think you were able to ride. You were probably broke off with your knee, I think. But it was just right around that time, I think.
Yeah, your ramp was actually your backyard ramp was one of like the most known BMX ramps at one point, I'd say. Do you remember who did all the designing and building for that? I don't know, man. I was always wishing that I could ride that. Like there was so many kids that knew. Cool. Yeah, like, I don't know. There was so many people that knew about that ramp, I always thought that it was one of the most iconic setups. It's
Dude,
like
that's cool. That was all me. I designed it all. I did all the angles. I did it with a friend of mine that built skate ramps, but they helped me position it. But it was all my favorite spots I ever rode from. The wedge section was from a local skate park when I was riding back in 2005, 2006. Then the hip section was just putting together 2 hips, my favorite way to ride, like the Days Mirror type of hips, but putting them back to back. So it was kind of like a mini rhythm section. Then the 2 small box jumps were like not too steep, but you could do certain tricks. And then all the quarter pipes to wedge setup was to, every single ramp had a purpose. there was a point where the guys who built the ramps were friends of mine in Florida that I think worked on Team Pain, but I was just working with them directly. And there was a couple times that they built some ramps, and I wrote it, and I go, "Hey, it's wrong. I'm sorry, it's wrong." And they'd be pissed, but they'd start over because they knew, I was very, very specific on the type of angles. And I remember I'd be calling Dennis McCoy, or I was calling Mira, or I remember making lots of calls on angles. When they would get to a certain ramp, I would ride it, or they would just do a little section. I go, "No, something's wrong. Hold on. What angle is this? What radius? How high?" And I would call, and I'd get back to them. I go, "Guys, I'm so sorry. I fucked up. It's the wrong angle."
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I do a ton of work with like pro riders, and like they know what they want. They just don't know the numbers, right? So it's like, oh, I want it to feel like this ramp that's here or whatever. And it's like, you kind of got to do that crazy bit of research to like find that one photo on the internet that like shows the side view of what this thing looks like or whatever. And like, yeah, I understand the struggle, man. It's like, it's something like almost does take a bit of trial and error to get those things figured out. But yeah, when it's in your backyard, it's got to be right. You don't want to be riding something every day that's just like not what you wanted.
There was a few ramps. Like the one that was in front of the box jump was mellow, too steep, which was good for air, like for how do I say, for basically getting air, but you could land a little low and pull the trick. But then on the right side of it was a much wider, I want to say it was 9-foot quarter. Maybe you'll know this, Jordan, 9 foot with a 9-foot radius. Does that sound right? Kind of steep at that.
The
right?
big wide one is almost like a vert ramp, but not quite. Yeah. It was probably about 9 foot, 9-foot radius. Sounds about right. Yeah.
So the reason why I did that, I actually didn't really want it, but the reason why I did it was I wanted to learn how to ride a steep quarter bike.
Yeah.
And I knew if I had it, I would learn. Like I knew if this is the only way that you're going to be able to ride my place for myself, I'm going to figure it out. And then I remember going back to other contests after this, and I remember having guys come up to me going, "Holy shit, you learned how to ride your bike now, not just do tricks."
Those
time just learning.
Those kind of ramps are hard to hit. Like when it just comes to vert, it wants to like shoot you out of the coping and like land flat all the time. You almost have to push into it, right? So I now that you're saying that, I remember riding that quarter at your house, and it was super weird for me to air because it was tight. But like I love doing like backwards grinds and stuff on it because it was like just steep enough that like your wheels didn't hit the tranny.
You could do it without your wheels touching.
Yeah.
So that every single ramp there had a purpose of either learning a certain riding trick or happiness, because I used to ride that kind of ramp setup at like an old skate park.
Yeah, you remember it from somewhere.
When I was a little kid. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm real OCD with how I want certain angles and stuff. And when it's your park, you kind of have say. And we just started adding ramps to it. So if you see all the ramps in the middle were added to it, and then when we started changing angles, we figured out, why are we going to rip a ramp down? Just build on top of it. So there was a lot of times we just started building on top. So the park technically went from 110 feet wide, and it probably kept getting skinnier by 5 feet every single time I built a different transition on a ramp, because it would just be easier to build on top,
Yeah, I think I remember you guys doing that to the foam pit when I was there. You were building on top of it. And actually we stole that idea, and we did something at all in the skate park down the road not long ago. We just built a tranny on top of another tranny, and it makes so much sense.
Yeah, and it's cheaper, time-wise, everything.
Yeah, on the mega ramp. So it used to be like a lip to the airbag. Okay. And we turned it into a quarter, so we just made it super steep. So we just built a tranny on top of the tranny.
Okay, I see which one you're talking about.
I literally stole that idea right from Spinner's Yard. Like I was hilarious. There watching them do that. Yeah, it was amazing.
Oh, cool.
That's insane. Oh man. So let's actually, I didn't send you this one, but I just thought of it this morning. What was a trick that you really struggled with?
Oh man, bar spins, flares, bar spins and flares, for whatever reason, just never. The bar spins felt good when I could do them, but they just didn't work like for other people. Like other people would be able to do a bar spin on a big quarter pipe, and I was like, holy shit, how do you do that? I just couldn't wrap my head around it, but I'm sure that's the other, sure when I would do a tail up high on a quarter pipe or a 540 on a quarter pipe, it was, the same thing. But bar spins, big struggle, flares, I never understood it. Even though I could do them, it was like a struggle every time. Those I'd say were the biggest. Yeah, those are hard,
I get scared taking my hands off my bike, really. I don't like that idea. I'd rather throw a tail whip and be able to like run out of it than miss the bars and just eat shit.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I can't bar spin at all. Like, I suck at them. I taught a kid how to do a bar spin. I know how to do it. You know what I mean? I've never pulled one. I know all the like steps on how to do it. I'm a bitch when it comes to taking my hands off. Like, unless it's on a T-bog, like if it's a one-handed trick, that's fine.
I was good at tire grabs back in the day, but then someone told me to stop doing it. I guess I didn't make them look good,
Whatever.
Turn downs for me felt great. I guess from other people's point of views, they weren't that good, but I was good at putting them in spins and stuff like that. Some people considered it not really a turn down. I was like, hey, the bars are exactly 180, but well, what other tricks? Talking about no-handers, I was able to do a straight no-hander over a box jump or a 720 no-hander over a box jump, but I couldn't do a 360 no-hander over a box jump.
That's so weird, eh? As for turn downs, if you ever need any advice, I like to think that I'm a pretty good turn down guy.
Nice.
Well, maybe we could both trade. I could give you like a 720 turn down, and you could help me click it past just the 180.
Yeah.
Maybe we could just come up with a negotiation.
I like that. I'll hit you up about that. We might be doing that.
All right, perfect. Yeah.
Oh, man. So here's another good one for you. What year do you think was the best on your bike? And can you explain why?
All right, so either 2008 or 2010. So 2008, I was the most dialed with doing tricks on my bike. Every ramp I hit, I could do, if it was a quarter pipe, I could do a 540 tail whip. I could do a 900 on it. I could do any trick that I want to. So I was the best at doing my tricks. 2008. 2010, let's just say my degree of tricks, let's say, were a little less, but riding my bike, I was the best as a bike rider I ever was, like riding ramps. For example, I could air a quarter pipe 6 or 7 feet up and not struggle at airing that high, or just I was better at riding my bike and then getting to doing good tricks. So 2008, I remember really enjoying it. 2010, I was probably better riding a bike, but this is when I had like ACL knee surgery and I had to wear like all this not fun knee equipment, and that stuff makes riding not fun when you have to like put braces on and all that stuff, it made it like mechanical. And also the downside of that is, it starts to feel like a job when you have to pad up to perform, like, you know what I mean? So like it kind of, and there's a lot of pressure. Like I have, by 2010, I had my ramps in my backyard. So, there's a mortgage payment. So there's pressure. Mortgage payments are pressure, right? And 2008, I was doing really well. So I don't know. Kind of, does that make sense? I know I'm bringing a lot more emotion into it, but that's kind of how.
No, that really makes sense. So here's something that'll probably blow your mind, Mike. 2008, I was 12 years old.
Wait, how old are you now?
I'm 23.
That's a pretty stupid question.
It's pretty crazy, man. Yeah, I think in 2000.
You look old.
Father time.
Yeah, it's the beard and the tattoos. My dad's a tattoo artist, so.
Cool. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Does your dad hook you up or?
Oh, hell yeah, dude. He sponsors this show. That's right, guys. Wonderland Studios. Go hit them up. Go get a nice-ass tattoo. No, my dad's been doing it for like 25 years plus right now. Like, longer than I've been alive. And, like, I gotta tell you, man, I'm the luckiest fucking kid in the world. Like, it's unreal what he does for me, man. I absolutely have so much respect for him. And, like, I can't believe that, like, you know, the stuff that he's able to do. He got me into BMX, and, you know, like, one of the things that he's always been a skater, and when I told him that I really liked bikes, instead of being the old man skater being like, oh, well, you should ride a skateboard, he instead went out and bought a bike, and then he and I learned how to do like the basic stuff together. And, you know, one of his tricks that was his favorite trick was actually the foot jam tail whip.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
So I need you to do me a favor, Mike. Can you say, Wayne, you had the best foot jam tail whips right now?
You said Wayne?
Wayne.
Yeah, Wayne, you had the best foot jam tail whips ever.
Hell yeah, there we go. Hell yeah. Cool. So here's another question.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Okay.
no, continue.
No, you got to send me a clip of your dad doing it now, though. You know.
That was
It's been
before
a-
video cameras, probably, wasn't it?
It's been a while since he's done them, but you know what? I'm going to tell him to bring out his bike, and, you know, this summer we'll get you a clip and I'll send it to you.
All right, perfect. That'd be fantastic.
Hell yeah. So here's a good question for you. It's a little bit of a in-depth one. So since retiring from BMX, there are hyper bikes with your name on them sold at Walmart. I'd like to take a minute to explain why I believe that that was the right move. You know, a lot of kids growing up aren't able to afford a $400 bike just to see if they like BMX. I think that someone young, that bike means a lot to them, and having a legend like yourself's name on it makes it even better. Who knows? Maybe that kid could actually get that bike for Christmas, and they were hooked on BMX, and one day they'll become pro. You know. And here's a good thing to kind of like. This is where I'm getting my information from. When I grew up, I was very we weren't very well off, and I ended up doing like paper routes just to actually afford to buy myself a bike. And I bought myself like just a $60 backyard, like, you know, piece of junk bike, like BMX bike, but I got hooked on it, you know, and like I loved BMX, and that's basically how it started out today. So I think that it's important, you know, like a lot of people might say stuff about it, and, you know, they might say things that aren't too nice about it, but I think, you know what, who cares? Like, you are a legend. You've done so much within BMX, and just putting your name on that, it is such good promotion for kids that are trying to get in, you know?
No, I agree with you. I think it was definitely a decision where I was coming from Miracle Bikes, and I wasn't necessarily fitting the mold on Miracle because I was going in the corporate direction, let's call it, going on the Jimmy Fallon show, definitely going into the corporate, more the corporate world of where Miracle was actually having some really core riders, and they were putting out a lot of street riders. They were trying to keep their image up on the cool scene with like street and stuff, and that wasn't necessarily where I was at. I was definitely the do tour kid who was, you know, doing really well at those kind of contests, and I definitely, you know, when you do interviews, you kind of create yourself on like what kind of person you are or what kind of personality. For example, when you do an interview after you win a contest, you kind of have two answers to go with. You either hold it together and you say, I'm just out here riding my bike, you know, and that is the cool answer in BMX. Or you have, let's just say, the honest answer, a little more, not honest because both are honest, but just being a little more specific on, hey, I really worked hard. I'm so excited to be here, which is true. If you win a fucking contest, you were hyped. That is why you flew to this event, and you know you're just kind of putting more emotion out there, and that's not necessarily cool, you know. And I think that's kind of what created my persona of being more corporate. So when I got my sponsor, Ballpark Hot Dogs, that was definitely making a decision on if I'm leaning more on the corporate world. And then when I had the opportunity to do a partnership with Hyper Bikes, putting my name on a bike with being in Walmart, it was all going to be dependent on me wanting to go 100% in on it, like, you know, promoting it and being excited about it. That was number one. And then number two was if the bike actually did well at Walmart, or it wouldn't have mattered. So even today, it's been 10 years, and I think I have one of the longest running bikes with my name on it, which is really fantastic, you know. But, you know, I'll be honest, if people don't know me, it's just a cool name. So even if it's not me as spinner, the name is still cool. So they just might think it's the spinner model, you know. So, but the cool thing is if they do look into it, they'll notice that there is a rider connected to this bike. And like you said, bikes are expensive. You know, I had to work a lot to convince my parents to split the bike with me. My expensive bike after my initial Walmart bike was $100. The next bike, the GT Performer, was $300. And I remember paying for half of it washing driveways. And then my next bike, I bought at Dan's Comp, and that was $700, $800. And I paid for that 100% myself, washing dishes and being a busboy. So bikes are expensive, and like you said, it's best that parents know if their kid like it or not for $100, because let's be honest, people can't afford this kind of money. It's ridiculous, man. I mean, my bike that I have right now, I'm barely riding, and I know the bike under me is $2,000.
Oh, yeah.
Ridiculous. People can't afford this. People can't afford this, you know?
It's expensive, you know? It's really weird. You know, I've had parents talk to me and be like, hey, should I get my son into BMX? Like, you know, he likes this kind of stuff, but, you know, he's already in hockey and that's really expensive. And it's hard to explain to them why it's so important that you spend a little bit more on a bike. But, like, you know, especially if they're just getting into it, I think definitely the route that you went was the right route, you know? Like, somebody's got to do it. Somebody has to have their name on these bikes to get them out there, you know, get these bikes that kids are going to see them and maybe get into BMX. And, you know, my whole thing is that, like, I love anything that promotes BMX in a positive way. You know, it really, I'm telling you honestly, BMX changed my life when I was a young kid. And I have always tried to pursue and make sure that kids get the same feeling that I did when I was younger, you know? Like, I throw jams every year where I don't get sponsors. I give out my own hard-earned money that I make from my part-time job. I do all of this stuff, and it's all just for the love of it, you know? I want kids to see that this is, like, a good spot to be in, I guess.
So, Mike, talking about some of your corporate sponsors, I guess you'd call them, like, I know maybe it's just hearsay, but I'm pretty sure you had like an agent working with you, like in your early days, like guiding you through some of that stuff, I would assume. And like, how much was that process? Like, how did that shape like your business venture to start, like Evil and all that? Like, was that like a driving like aspect?
Ask that question again. Sorry, ask just the beginning part.
So you, in your early days of riding, were you working with like an agent to kind of help you choose sponsors or find those sponsorships?
Yeah. So in 2000, this is after I pulled the 1080. I was already trying, and I was reaching out to talk to Wasserman Media Group, but they don't just take on people just to take on people. And technically, I didn't really do anything at that point yet. But then I pulled the 1080, and then after I pulled that 1080, Mira was calling Brad Lusky, who then was like, almost I got the recommendation from Dave saying, yo, get this kid. He's going to be good. So then I remember getting a phone call about, you know, getting sponsors. And the first sponsor, like real money sponsor, was from Monster Energy. And it was from Dave Mira calling me saying, hey, Mike, I got you 20 grand from Monster. And I'm like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, I got you $20,000, but Brad's going to follow up with the paperwork. And I'm like, wait, are you serious? Like, I'm bugging out, you know? And that was from Wasserman Media Group. I mean, at the end of the day, those guys are handling it because corporate sponsors are pretty hardcore once the paperwork, contracts, actually getting paid, invoicing to them and all that. It's a lot. So definitely that was a good start of learning just the process of being in business. You know, I mean, I could go into so many details of my business, but I could say in a short, it is I learned a lot from BMX, you know.
Hell yeah. So another thing that I wanted to touch on is that you were sponsored by Ballpark Franks, like you mentioned earlier, something that not many have done. Don't take this the wrong way, but I've heard people call you a sellout for that. So
yeah.
Here's why I don't think so. There's a video of Tony Hawk talking about how he was called a sellout for being sponsored by McDonald's. And in the video, he says, I was able to promote skating with marketing money that we would have never seen. And honestly, I feel the same way about your sponsorship with Ballpark. To like I mentioned earlier, you know, to me, anything that, you know, gets kids stoked on BMX, hell yeah. And like, you know, how did that happen? How did you get sponsored by Ballpark Franks?
Yeah, so the 2007, right before the Dew Tour, I got asked if I wanted to work with Ballpark, and I actually didn't even know why I was being asked. I remember saying, "Why are you asking me this question? That's awesome, of course." And they're like, "Well, you're choosing sides," and I go, "What do you mean?" They go, "Well, it's not cool," and I go, "Again, what do you mean?" It's not the coolest. Once you start going into this corporate sponsorship type stuff, you can get kind of beat up. And I'm just like, what do you mean? I have no idea. They want to give me money to represent their brand? Hell yeah. And then a year later is when I did another deal with them where they owned my T-shirt. And I understood. I knew that was going to be, that's kind of when I learned a little more about, if I land myself with a company like that, it could turn into, the sellout situation, which is kind of where it could look like I'm being a sellout. So that's when the Miracle thing, Miracle and me, I was still friends with everyone. Me and Dave were great friends, but just from the bike sponsor part, I was wearing a T-shirt. I went from wearing Dave Mirra's T-shirts in 2007 to 2008. I signed a really big contract with Ballpark for 2 years, but they owned my T-shirt. But that 2-year deal was equal to $300,000.
Wow. That's
how do you say no? How do you say no to that, right?
Dude, yeah, exactly. How do you say no? That's a lot of.
So nobody knew the value because these are things that you don't tell people. Nothing good comes out of telling people how much. But I definitely got called a bunch of names and stuff like that. And but it's cool today. I've told some people yes, they were giving me $150,000 plus travel. So technically, it was $170,000 for 2 years. So $340,000.
You hear
a fucking T-shirt.
You heard it here, folks. Mike Spinner, $340,000 just for being awesome and fucking eating hot dogs. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So you basically had to wear their T-shirt all day, every day, or what? Was that just for like events? Or?
No, just when I was competing. But technically, in my mind, it's all about how do you keep this partnership going. So when I would meet some really positive corporate guys that were like the high ups, I was wearing the T-shirt.
Oh yeah, of course.
I was so happy. So I was just wearing the T-shirt all the time. And I had that deal for 2008, 9, 10, 11, and so 5 years. So 2008, 9, 10, 11. Oh, so 4 years.
So did your closet look like Homer Simpson's closet with just like a bunch of the same T-shirt just hanging up?
No. Even today, the way I operate, I wear the same shorts every day. I like to wear the same T-shirts every day, just to simplify what I have to do every day. And so that's kind of I'm a creature of habit.
It's always been that way.
Do you know what's so funny?
I like to take
Do you know what's so funny about that, though? I think it's Bill Gates that like also is the same way. He just wears the same thing every day or like has a bunch of them, but just, it's so simple. Then you don't have to think about that kind of stuff, right? Like, to him or whoever it was, I think it was Bill Gates, don't quote me on that, but whoever it was that does that, they had said that it is just such a great, I think it might have been Steve Jobs actually.
Okay.
He had said that it's just such a great way to not have to put any effort in your mind towards that. You think of it once, you pick out all that stuff, and then you don't have that in your mind. Then you have more time to think about other stuff, including business, like what you've been doing, Mike, which is actually, the best transition into my next question here. So let's talk about how you went from pro BMX rider to the owner of one of the biggest sports supplement companies in the world.
Oh, thank you. Man, where do I start? 2010, I feel like I keep bringing that up. I tore my ACL, and I was really nervous. 2009, I tore my ACL, and I was really nervous that I was going to be one of those pro athletes that you never hear about again because they got hurt and they just never come back. So I was stressing so hard about it that I learned all about sports nutrition and going to the gym and how to rehabilitate my knee. And I learned all about sports nutrition, certain products to take to get back, to get my legs back in shape. And I then won the following contest that I entered, which was 2010, the Big Do Tour, that I did the 1080 and quad whip in the same run. And I won that contest. And I was like, oh, wow. Sports nutrition is really, really life-changing here. This is really needed, and I just thought it'd be really cool to try to combine what I've learned in BMX and try to create a brand that what I've learned in BMX and action sports, but put it in the world of sports nutrition. And it's really worked out really well. We have some big customers, and we're growing, and we're growing internationally now. And yeah, I think just trying to learn, using all these, using everything I learned from building up hype in BMX to releasing a product to working with athletes that we have. It's really been amazing and a full circle, trying to see the other end of the spectrum of we're in charge of the athletes instead of being an athlete,
Do you keep involved with BMX? Like, do you sponsor riders?
He actually does, and sorry to interrupt there,
yeah.
but you actually sponsor Matty Kramer's, Scotty Kramer's little brother, as one of your athletes, correct?
Mm-hmm. We do. He's awesome, and he really represents our brand really good. Yeah, thanks for knowing that. Appreciate that.
I do my research, don't worry. No, but, Matty is incredible, and, to go back on what we were talking about earlier about big injuries within BMX, obviously you would know who Scotty Kramer is, and, I would hope that about his injury that he had a couple years ago.
Yeah, of course.
I think that he is definitely one of the most positive, people to come out of that. His whole channel on YouTube is about positivity, and, it's so crazy to think about where he's come since that day, and he's definitely one of a kind. I always feel like a Scotty fanboy because I always talk about him on this podcast, but it's hard not to, somebody like him that was able to go through that traumatic experience and be, paralyzed and then be able to walk again, ride his bike again, do all this stuff is insane. And it's really cool to see that Matty, who you sponsor, has a very positive attitude, and you can tell that Matty looks up to his big brother. Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah. He is such a positive guy, and when I'm with Matty, I forget that he's even Scotty's brother, because technically Matty's his own person, and it's crazy how both of them are two. He came from the Kramer family, but I totally forget he has his own great personality. He loves the gym, and what Scotty has created has been just an amazing YouTube channel. And like you said, he sticks to the core, which I really like. For example, he only does things that are BMX related. He doesn't stray from that, which I really appreciate, because I feel like there's a lot of opportunities to do one-off things that have nothing to do with BMX, and he won't do it. And I really, really like that,
Yeah, Scott's incredible. The stuff that he does is ridiculous, and I do love that he keeps everything about fun and BMX, and I wonder how many kids he's actually got into BMX with his YouTube channel. And I wonder how many of those kids went out and bought a spinner Walmart bike. Go and support.
I know, yeah. Well, he is sponsored by Hyper Bikes. So
well, he is, yeah.
Yeah. So technically, it's full circle again. But yeah, it's cool that you brought that up. Yeah, he's a great person, and we actually did when he got hurt a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, I think. I don't know what it was. We did anyone that used a 50% off code, we gave 100% of the proceeds to Scotty. So I'm not sure what that turned into, what it was. Maybe it was over $1,000 or $2,000. I really forgot. It's been a while, but yeah, we did that. Anyone that bought any EVL products, 50% off, and then we gave 100% of the revenue to Scotty's family.
Hell yeah, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So let's talk about why following your dreams and making it a reality is so important. We're sitting in a room here where I'm talking to you in Florida, but you were a pro BMX rider that landed all these crazy tricks, including, the 1080, the quadruple tail whip, and the 360 triple whip. And then across the table from me is Jordan Bonifacio, who created his own ramp company and is building ramps because he loves to build shit. I got to tell you, this is something about Jordan. Jordan is the smartest fucking dude I know. This guy knows so much about building ramps. It's insane. Like, I don't get it at all, but he's able to look at something and be like, nope, that's not going to work. You need to do it like this, and it'll work perfectly every time. And then, I don't want to brag or anything, but I'm following my dreams by, doing podcasts and speaking to crazy people like yourself. Like, it's insane, So let's talk about why it's important that you do this.
It's following dreams. Like what with Jordan. When you get to that level of just loving what you do, you just get so good at it that you can look at stuff from afar and know exactly what you have to do, which is just pretty crazy, because that's just another level of skill. Like, it's breaking the barrier. Like, if 1 in 10 is like a skill level, and let's just say most people at an item that a thing that they work on, it could be riding or work or whatever. Let's just say the average rating is lower than everyone would think. I would say it's probably a 3. That's minimal effort, get the job done. And then to get to a level of, let's say, 5 or 6, it's a really hard work, because that means you have to be, better than most people. You have to work harder than most people at that task or job you do. But then, to get to the level of, let's say, what Jordan does, building ramps, let's say he's at a 9. Because no one's a 10. 10, you can't get better. And let's say you're a level 9 and you're able to look at something and you know exactly what you have to do and all the details that come with it, right? The details that could be from what screws you're putting on to screws, wood, paint, masonite, ramp armor, whatever, I think I just don't understand why anyone wouldn't want to just be the best that they can be at the thing that they do every day, and I'd say the 3 of us all could probably agree on that, and we're currently doing things like with you doing your on your podcast, doing the research that you did, right? Or for me, it's now the company EVL, and then we all came from BMX. It's pretty, just kind of full circle. Isn't that pretty wild?
It's insane, eh? I think BMX is one of those things that, like, skating, BMX, scootering, any of these things, I think a lot of kids should get into it because it teaches you that when you do fall, you get back up. I know it's so cliche to say that, but, like, it's so true. Like, when you want to learn something, you put your effort towards it, and when you don't land it or you fall or you get hurt, you get back up and you try it again and you keep going. And I think that, like, being a BMX rider, for myself at least, has completely changed the way that I think of everything in the world, in the way that I take that, and I put it with everything that I do. Do you get what I'm saying?
What's the point now? Yeah.
Yeah, you got to put effort in, and like you gotta do something, I guess. And if you're like working some job that you don't really want to work, and it's hard to put that effort in and to be good and excel to even that level 5 where you're like, yeah, I'm doing my job okay. Like if you're just, digging ditches and you just hate doing what you're doing, you're not going to progress anywhere, right? Like it's going to be hard to find any satisfaction with what you're doing. But yeah, like as soon as you start focusing your efforts onto something that you actually enjoy doing, it just makes it so much easier to be that for yourself. Even if outside people don't see your talents, it's just easier for yourself to accept, I guess, what you're doing and put that effort in. And then once you do put that effort in, it just becomes that much more evident to everybody else looking inside. You're like, holy shit, this guy's like doing it right, like putting in the effort. And then that's where it like kind of gets noticed, right? You never really kind of get noticed when you're just like scraping by,
Doing it. No, never. It's if you're doing it and you have to be there in present time, that 5 minutes, that 1 hour, that 8 hours is the same 8 hours that we all have. And if you're half-assing whatever task you're doing versus doing it the best and almost being a brown noser and having your boss notice you, doesn't matter. I mean, why not, right? I mean, why not make it where it's life, it's kind of a competition, why not? I'm sure the guys that you hire, Jordan, at the end, who works harder for you than don't, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
I hope you guys are listening to this right now.
Hell yeah.
Name the names. I'm just kidding.
No, you definitely see guys like even in just the ramp building thing, like you see the guys that are there just to be there, and then you see the guys that go above and beyond and just kill it, and they're there before anybody and like helping other people. Like you can see a mental difference between people that really love what they're doing and guys that are just out for money.
I can definitely think of a few names right off the top of my head that you're relating to. The guy that's just there to see how it happens and whatnot was definitely me when we were building ramps. However, Steve Versteeg, there every day, 4 a.m. till 3 o'clock at night, building ramps.
Yep. And that's, right there. If you want to be literal about it, I mean, you're doing your podcast thing. You're not building. Steve's out there. He's doing his construction job and he's loving his life. So it's like, I'm sure if you were cutting concrete, you'd be like, fuck my life.
Oh, I've learned that I can't do any physical work because I don't like it. I need to do stuff like this where I'm sitting behind my desk just creating things and can be creative that way. Like, that's just what I'm good at. So,
and you'll excel at
and
it
what
better.
you enjoy.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
Yeah. And you're going to spend more time on how to be a better guy who's running podcasts, or you're going to listen to podcasts and take what other people are doing good or how they transition talking or anything, and you're going to, take that, learn it, and use it in your own way, right? And that's what you love.
Oh, of course. Yeah, and that's some really good advice, I actually only have one more question here for you, but first we have some fan questions. So these fan questions were all submitted through my Instagram. People just sent me DMs or they hit me up with the question box. So let's start off with this. Kristen wants to know what your funniest BMX memory or story is.
All right, so a good a G-rated one is I was at a competition. Did a 720, the handlebars ripped my pants, and my underwear was showing on TV, and then that was embarrassing, and I was nervous, and I hit my head, so I remember asking the medic, I go, did anyone see my thingy? I keep calling it a thingy.
I've always had that.
Good, and I thought that was a good one.
I've always had that fear. Like sometimes I'll go out in the summer and just be in my bathing suit or just gym shorts, no underwear or whatever under. I'm like, fuck, I better not rip my shorts because there's no turning back after that.
Your wife won't be too happy,
Yeah.
Fuck, it's so good. Oh man, he's also wondering what trick you're most proud of landing. That's a hard one.
Probably 1080. I would say 1080. That one probably was was probably the coolest one, where it was like no one, like people tried and they couldn't do it. I'd say 1080s. I'll go with 1080.
Hell yeah. And last question from Kristen. He was wondering what the best BMX contest was in your opinion.
Being in it or watching?
Let's do both. So let's do
it.
one that you're watching and one that you were in.
Okay. Probably the 2010 Do Tour, which I feel like I brought up so many times. Sorry about that.
It was a good year.
Probably that one. It was kind of life changing because it was after an injury, and I was able to put it all together, have a new style of riding because I set up ramps that were different, like those ramps that were real steep quarter pipes, and I felt like I knew how to ride a bike really well. And then I pulled off the run, won the contest, and then it kind of secured myself knowing that like I came back after a big injury. So I'd say that was like a big life-changing one. Or it could have been the first contest I ever won in 2007, which was the first 1080 I pulled, in the U.S. That I won that contest. So that I actually beat. It was Dave Muir got second, Daniel Dares got third, and I got first. And I thought that was probably so that was like the first life-changing one, and then the 2010 was the life-changing one to keep it going, to keep this pro BMX life alive, and to fund the skate park in my backyard. And then watching, I would say the one that was probably my backyard, just for the fact that when you have like the best person in the world ride your local place, let's call it my local skate park, I guess, to see what people can do on ramps that you ride every day, and the lines they did or the tricks they did on the certain ramps, it was unbelievable because I thought I owned those ramps. I thought I was the best at riding them, but you bring out the best guys in the world, and it always puts you in your place. Just like today in business, you think maybe you're good at talking to someone, and then you see someone that, let's call it, better in business, and all of a sudden you just, mentally not get shit on because it's more motivating, but technically you're like, holy shit, I'm happy I didn't speak up. That guy was the best speaker I ever heard, and it's just constantly cool, just like in business and in riding, that you keep, there's always someone better than you, and you could always learn, don't stop learning.
Hell yeah. Mike asked if you did any physical training for BMX or if you just used riding as your PT.
Oh yeah, wow, physical therapy. This guy is smart. I guess I went to the gym a lot, starting in 2009, 2010, and it actually made me stronger to do certain tricks and ride a certain way. And I wish maybe I would have went to the gym maybe a little more. That probably would have been a little better, or ate a little healthier, because I think I was probably the biggest person riding at competition. I think I weighed 220 pounds, 215 pounds, which was probably more than anybody else in the action sports,
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Here's another question for you that I just kind of came up with on the top of my head. A lot of pro riders are actually getting sponsored by CBD companies right now. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's cool. I think the more I learn about CBD, it seems like it's really, really helpful for joint pain, and I think it's a good thing. And on top of it being a good thing, I think it's just good financially. I think you said it earlier about McDonald's, and if they didn't sponsor the athlete, that money would have not existed in the sport, action sport. So technically, if CBD can help pave the way to help people travel more, go to more competitions, live a better lifestyle while they're coming up the ranks, or while they're becoming just professional riders and being able to live a little better lifestyle, that's fantastic. And ballpark, for me, I would not have been able to build the backyard if it wasn't for ballpark.
Hell yeah. So another one here from a fan. Kevin wants to know how you ended up on the Jimmy Fallon show.
Yeah. So What's cool about that was when I got sponsored by the big corporate brand Ballpark Hot Dogs, it came with an agency, which was NWW, and I became really good friends with the agency. Basically, from their point of view, it was easy and fun to put me in spots for to get coverage for Ballpark because I was wearing the T-shirt and such, rather than, let's just say, them trying to get coverage for just Ballpark. You always need like a hook, right? So, for example, my hook was I just learned the quadruple tail open. I'm about to do it at the next contest or something like that. So they pitched me to Jimmy Fallon, and this was the first year Jimmy Fallon was going on, and I wanted on a show, and it was really awesome. We actually set up a ramp. So I rode down rode down the audience, like they blocked off the lane, and that was actually really scary. It was like 2 feet wide. I rode straight down there, did a tail tire tap on the quarter pipe, the 4-foot quarter pipe. That was like, Ballpark Hot Dogs on there. Skidded right in front of Jimmy Fallon, did a bunny hop tail, did a bunny hop 360, and then I taught Jimmy how to do a bunny hop, and I bunny hopped over Jimmy Fallon, and it was really cool. It was a great experience, but definitely helped me, I'd say, get to another level of just maybe more corporate, go in the corporate direction, yeah.
That's so cool, though. Like, how many people can say that they've been on, the Jimmy Fallon show or any of those big, late night shows? It's insane to think that you're able to do that. And, I think that's like the really cool thing about being a corporate rider and having all of these big sponsors is that you have opportunities like that.
Yeah, that one was pretty freaking wild,
I was trying to find like video of it online. I was going to play some of it during the podcast, but I couldn't find any. However, I did find a really cool transcript where it's all of the things that you guys said while you're on stage there. And like literally I was sitting there reading it and I could just imagine the way that like things were going. I'm like, that must have been so fucking cool.
Thank you.
Hell yeah. So let's see. We have 2 more from the fans. Jesse was wondering what the biggest thing you learned from business that BMX didn't teach you.
Whoa, that's an easy one. People. That was something that I didn't necessarily have to focus on or learn in regards to when I was riding a bike. BMX, it was more. It was playing on my bike / what's my next trick I have to learn, and really just being a positive person that just really looked like just looked very happy no matter what type thing. And in business, it's a lot of people. It's we have 20 employees at EVL, and we have lots of customers, lots of manufacturers, lots of people we have to work with. And everyone is different, and there's introverts, extroverts, there's just understanding people's emotions, including myself. I'm still learning how I operate every day. And I would say understanding how to talk to people is something that I'm still learning today. But that is something that BMX, I'd say that's probably the only major thing that BMX didn't necessarily teach me. But that's the question right there.
Yeah,
Wow.
BMX is really kind of an internal thing that's like more like personal, I guess. And really, you could go your whole riding career without talking to a single person. But yeah, I guess when you got to try and sell yourself and like make people think the best of you, you gotta interact with them properly.
Yeah, people want to help people they like. It's straight up like that, right? So if we have a manufacturer, let's say, and let's just say I need a product really bad, but my due date is not for another couple of weeks. Being that I'm friends with them, or being that I'm a human and I talk to them all the time, maybe they'll do me a favor and move me up the line. But they're doing it more not for the company, for me as a favor, rather than because they have to do it. And, at the company level, it's understanding we're all people. The employees have personal lives. We all have things that we go through. And it's understanding it's a push-pull, right? You have to be, I think you have to be a great leader and a great person when you have employees and you have to push, give and take, you know, and as we build great relationships with some of these employees, some of the employees, everyone has other things going on, and people will go above and beyond because they like us or like me, hopefully, not necessarily because they have to, you know, or I'd say that's the biggest learning curve, you know. But like you said, BMX, it's all introvert. You don't talk to anyone. If anything, when you're doing yapping on the ramps, that means you're not riding, you know.
Wow, man. Such a great answer. Last but certainly not least for the fan questions, we have Danica asking if you have any advice for the next generation of riders.
Just enjoy riding. That's number one. Don't do it for a reason. Don't do it for because you have to. You have to just enjoy riding, just like you want to enjoy doing anything you do, just like we talked about earlier about being the best podcast ever, being the best ramp builder ever, let's say, I'm trying to be the best business person I can be. And I think that goes along with just enjoying it. And if you enjoy it and you love it, you'll be good at it, I hope.
That's the best answer, man.
Yeah, that seriously is. And, you know, I definitely don't want to say it's the best answer ever just because you said that this is the best podcast ever, but, you know, it kind of influences my decision.
Cool.
Oh, man. Mike, this has been amazing.
Yep.
Thank you for coming on the show today.
Great.
It means so much to myself and, you know, definitely means a lot to Jordan that you would take the time to do this. And I have one last question for you. Was your experience today on the Goat Cave podcast better than your experience on the late night show with Jimmy Fallon?
So two different answers. I thought you probably knew I'd say that. So with Jimmy Fallon, it was a time in my life where I was a BMX guy and I was doing tricks, and I had an opportunity to be on TV and meet some cool celebrities, and it was like an amazing experience. Talking to you guys today was, I think, you know, a fun conversation, but also we're having a conversation like adults. We all came from riding. We all are riders, but we all have our own thing we're doing. And I think it's kind of cool just to I feel like we're just having a conversation where we're young adults having a conversation on things that we do today. But what brought us together, like Jordan said earlier, was riding. And I think that is something that I just enjoy, you know, talking about. So thank you guys so much. And I don't think I could have enjoyed myself more.
Hell yeah, man. Is there anything you wanted to add today?
Yeah, I just think thank you guys for having me, and thanks for talking about Woodward Camp, and thanks for being positive. I was waiting for some crazy questions, you know, and so far so good. No pictures, nothing crazy, you know.
Oh man, there you go. You know what? I have one last crazy question. Actually, do you remember Mandy, Jordan's wife?
Yeah, of course.
Jordan, you want to tell this story?
So, okay. Yeah, I guess so.
No,
we're not going to throw Mike under the bus. Let's just say we had a lot of good times back at Woodward, and I think back to those times, and it was just like, those were fun times messing with each other, and just lots of laughs. We met a lot of good friends out there, and I think we all look back at those times, and it's just good memories all around.
Good memories, and I can't believe we're nothing bad happened to any of us. You know what I mean? We're in the middle of nowhere, hanging out, riding bikes every day, driving 1 hour to State College almost every night, and you know what I mean? And we're still kicking right now, you know?
Yeah, man. Yeah, it changed us all for the better. I'm sure it shaped us into what we're doing now.
No, really did. Now, thank you again. Are we good to go? Is that good? Are you happy with my talking today?
We're gonna need you to write this all out in pen.
Yeah.
Send it to us.
Yeah. Oh man, Mike, I gotta say, this has seriously been one of the best podcasts that I've done yet. You know, I was really nervous going into this because you were such a influence on me when I was younger, and it's always hard to talk to people that are I don't want to say it, but huge mega stars like yourself, like it always blows my mind that you're like people like yourself are willing to take the time to speak to somebody like me, So thank you so much.
Thank you. And, all right. Thank you guys so much. So what do I do now? Do I just disconnect? Am I free?
Not yet. Just stay on the line. I'm going to end the show off, and then I got a couple more things, and that's it. So thank you guys for tuning in to the show today. This has been the Goat Cave Podcast. Like and subscribe. Go on to all your favorite podcast streaming platforms and add it up on there. If you need a tattoo, go to Wonderland Studios and go get one of those. This has been awesome. Mike, thank you. Jordan, thank you.
Thank you, Cam.
Hell yeah. Goat Cave Podcast, we're out. Mike, stay on the line.
All right, cool.